if you're a high-earning professional, maybe a consultant, a specialist, an independent expert, you probably started with this one very specific, very powerful dream. It's a common one among six-figure freelancers.
Oh, I know this one.
I just want to work for myself.
Right.
No team, no employees, just me.
Just me. The simplest model.
Exactly. It sounds so simple. It promises you maximum control. It feels safe because you think you're getting rid of all that corporate bureaucracy, the payroll risk you hated at your old job.
Yeah, you're cutting out the fat.
And for a lot of people, this solo model, it is the fastest path to a high income. There's no denying that.
For a while, at least.
Right. But what we're here to talk about today is a critical paradox that our source material brings up. The analysis is built around the experiences of independent quantity surveying consultancies, or QS experts.
And these are people who are technically brilliant. Their job is managing costs in huge construction projects. Precision is everything.
Absolutely. But what these experts, and honestly six-figure freelancers in every single field, find is that their treasured just me model is, in reality, probably the most dangerous, the most unstable, and frankly, the most fragile business structure they could possibly build.
It's a trap disguised as freedom.
So let's unpack this. We're going to explore why this highly sought-after structure is described as the absolute riskiest version of a business, and what the source material suggests is the actual turning point for achieving stability. Moving beyond just doing great technical work to actually running a resilient business.
What's so fascinating here is precisely that paradox you mentioned. It's how the pursuit of simplicity leads you directly into this world of complexity and extreme fragility.
How does it happen?
Well, when a specialist chooses that solo path, they definitely get rid of the corporate meetings, the performance reviews, all that drag, but they don't realize that they've just unknowingly picked up every single other corporate responsibility. They become the single point of failure for the entire operation. So we'll be looking at the moment this model inevitably catches up with you. We'll look at the precise structural failures that happen, even if you are technically brilliant at your core job. It doesn't matter if you're a QS managing millions or a coder writing flawless logic. Your technical competence doesn't save a flawed structure.
Okay, so let's start by, being honest about the initial success. Because the solo model, it absolutely works for a little while.
It does. It has to, or no one would do it.
Right. When you're just serving one or two small clients, or maybe your business is so new that the demand isn't overwhelming yet, you can manage. You can handle all the admin tasks manually. It feels fine.
You can brute force it.
But the moment growth happens, and for any six-figure freelancer, growth is the whole point. That's when the underlying structural flaw just gets completely exposed.
Yeah, the cracks start to show very, very quickly.
And the brilliance of the QS consultant or the designer or the coach, that isn't the problem. The core competence is excellent. The issue is that the structure forces you to try and fit an entire organization with all its different departments into one single human being.
You basically become a small, self-contained, and let's be honest, an utterly exhausted one-person corporation.
So that exhaustion, where does it come from? Because you're doing the work you love, right?
That's the illusion. The exhaustion comes from the fact that the work you're actually paid to do, your core technical function, is only a tiny fraction of your actual working week. We took the detailed notes from the source material and we categorized all the specific, unavoidable business roles a six-figure freelancer has to take on.
And
the list is sobering. It immediately shows you why time just seems to vanish into thin air.
okay, let's go through them.
Let's start with the roles you think you're signing up for. We'll call them the core technical roles. This is the actual billable work, the high-value expertise that justifies that six-figure rate.
The stuff you're actually good at.
Exactly. For QS, this means things like detailed cost estimation, contract administration, managing project finances. So right there, you are the quantity surveyor. That's role one. But you're also the project lead, the one managing the client relationship and the delivery timelines. That's two distinct, high-stakes roles that need deep, uninterrupted focus.
And right there, the moment you start dedicating serious time to just those two roles, the clock starts ticking down on all the other essential, non-billable stuff that's supposed to pay the bills next month.
Precisely. Which brings us to the next category, the revenue generation roles. You need to find work, you need to attract work, and you need to close that work constantly.
So now you're in sales.
You're in sales. You are the BD manager, the business development manager. That's role three. You're cold calling, you're going to networking events, writing these incredibly detailed, bespoke proposals, negotiating terms.
That's a full-time job for some people.
It is. And at the same time, you are also the marketing director. That's role 4. You're responsible for your personal brand, your LinkedIn profile, maybe a newsletter, your whole online presence.
Yeah.
You have to make sure your perceived expertise stays competitive.
Let's just pause on that for a second. The switching cost between those two pairs of roles it's immense.
It's huge.
You have to jump from this deep technical focus of calculating project costs, the QS role, to this outgoing, persuasive, forward-looking mindset of pitching and networking. That mental whiplash is tiring all by itself.
It is, and the source material points out a huge vulnerability right here. If you stop doing the BD and marketing, even for just 1 month, because you need to focus on delivering a big, lucrative project.
Which you have to do.
You have to. But if you do that, the revenue pipeline instantly dries up 90 days from now. And that creates this massive future financial and emotional stress. The solo professional is perpetually trapped in a feast or famine cycle.
Because the sales department and the delivery department are forced to compete for the same hours in the day.
And they're the same person.
Right. And even if you do land the deal,
Yay.
that administrative treadmill, it just never stops.
Yeah.
You can't escape the friction of the operations and finance roles.
Nope, that's roles 5, 6, and 7. And honestly, this is often the true energy drain. You're the finance department, the invoicing department, and the general admin.
Stuff nobody wants to do.
Nobody. This is the necessary, non-glamorous friction of running a business. You're processing payments. You're often chasing outstanding invoices again and again. You're managing software subscriptions, dealing with digital file hygiene, filing compliance paperwork.
Yeah.
And while each of these tasks feels small on its own, oh, I'll just file that expense later, when you add them all up, they form this massive operational drag.
Operational drag. I like that term.
It's the perfect description. These are low-value activities that actively steal time from your high-value QS work. So if you spend 5 hours a week just chasing payments and organizing your templates, that's 5 hours you cannot bill at your 6-figure rate. This operational drag becomes the real ceiling on your actual profitability.
So even if the QS gets the project, the non-core work threatens to just eat the profit margin alive. And then finally, you have to manage the perception and the quality of that high-value work. This brings us to the client and quality rules.
Exactly. You are the communications manager, that's role 8. You're handling all the client updates, you're managing their difficult expectations, you're troubleshooting problems, and you are constantly on call.
There's no gatekeeper?
No receptionist, no dedicated client services team. Every single notification, every email, every text, it goes straight to you.
Which destroys deep work.
Completely. And crucially, rule number 9, you are the quality control manager. Because there's no one else to peer review your detailed cost estimates. There's no colleague to spot that critical error in a schedule before it goes out. You are the final and often very tired line of defense against mistakes.
9 separate mission-critical roles.
All housed within one person.
So the 6-figure freelancer who believes they are just me is actually a 9-person department where the CEO, the janitor, the accountant, and the sales team all have the exact same tired face.
And the implication of juggling those 9 roles is profound. Your core technical capability, the thing you were paid 6 figures for, is realistically only about 1/9 of your actual job.
Wow.
The other 8 parts are non-core, high-friction, time-consuming tasks that are just necessary to keep the business alive. And the source material really emphasizes this. It doesn't just lead to burnout. That's predictable. It leads to compromised quality in one of those 9 areas.
And that's where the risk comes in.
That's the real risk. Let's make this really clear. You might be a brilliant QS, that's role 1. But if your finance role is failing, role 5, so your invoicing is delayed, you have cash flow problems, the whole business can fail. Or if your marketing role is failing, role 4, the pipeline dries up, the entire business fails. It doesn't matter how good your cost management work is.
The business is only as strong as its weakest, most neglected function.
That's it exactly.
It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? The high-earning specialist seeks autonomy, but ends up with zero autonomy because they are a slave to the cumulative administrative load of 9 separate job descriptions.
And that structural imbalance is why the solo operation is forced to spend, I'd say, 80% of its time in the business tasks, admin, BD, chasing invoices, that don't directly generate the 6 figures.
Right, they're just supporting the 20% on the business work that actually does.
Exactly. And that heavy, heavy burden of the multi-role freelancer, It's just not sustainable in the long term.
Okay, so the structure is fundamentally flawed. We've established that. But when this structure breaks down, it's not like a sudden explosion. It's more of a slow, agonizing
It's
process.
a slow burn.
Yeah, and it's punctuated by these specific, undeniable symptoms that signal the system is failing. So let's look at the 4 specific things that happen once the solo 6-figure freelancer hits what you could call maximum sustainable capacity. These are the signal flares telling you that the just me trap is closing in.
And these symptoms are the direct consequences of that structural imbalance we talked about. Trying to squeeze those 9 roles into a finite 40 or 50 or, let's be real, 60-hour week.
Okay, symptom 1, velocity and time strain. The source material highlights the professional hitting capacity much faster than they expected, and then they start working late nights just to keep up.
This is the first really visible sign of that operational drag becoming, well, lethal. But it's so important to understand why they're working late.
It's not because the work is hard.
No, they're not working late because the core QS work itself is inherently difficult for them. They're brilliant at it. They're working late because the core work only gets to start after the other 8 roles have taken their pound of flesh during the day.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Let's say there's a critical deadline for a tender submission tomorrow. The QS needs 8 hours of focused, deep dive cost analysis to get it right. But today, they had to spend 2 hours on the finance role, chasing a month overdue invoice from another client. Then they spent another hour on the admin role, dealing with digital filing and some software update that went wrong. And then 2 hours on the BD role, writing a new proposal to keep the pipeline full for next quarter.
So 5 hours, gone, just like that.
Gone. Before they even touch the main task. So
Yeah.
now that necessary 8 hours of technical QS work has to start at 6 p.m. The velocity of your professional life just accelerates completely out of your control because there's no external shock absorber for all those non-billable tasks. You are effectively running a second unpaid job every single evening.
And that leads directly into the emotional cost of this, which is symptom 2, emotional and financial stress concentration. Every single project delay becomes your personal problem. Every gap in the workflow becomes your personal stress.
This is probably the most insidious aspect of it, and it's why the solo model is so often psychologically unsustainable.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you work inside a stable consultancy or any company, stress is dispersed. If a client is late paying an invoice, the finance department handles the chasing, and the company has cash reserves. It's not an emergency.
It's a line item on a spreadsheet for someone else.
Exactly. If a project hits a technical snag, the project manager fields the fallout. There are layers, there are buffers. But when you are solo, the business stress is completely indistinguishable from your personal stress.
There's no buffer at all.
No emotional or professional buffer whatsoever. That late payment means you might not pay your taxes on time or your mortgage. A project delay means you lose your weekend and you risk your client reputation. The entirety of the emotional and financial risk is concentrated onto one human being.
Which is why the burnout rate for this group is just so incredibly high, regardless of the money they're making.
Yes. The high income is simply compensation for tolerating an unsustainable level of concentrated risk. You're being paid to be stressed.
I understand that intense pressure, but I have to play devil's advocate for a minute. If the 6-figure freelancer is making great money, like let's say they have 6 months of runway saved up in the bank, maybe they can tolerate a sick week. Or a few months of that concentrated stress. Is that short-term fragility really worth sacrificing the control that they cherish so much?
That raises a really essential question about the nature of risk itself. Tolerating short-term stress is one thing, but the solo model inherently prevents long-term resilience and growth, which leads us right into symptom 3, the strategic stagnation. You are perpetually reacting to today's demands. It makes it impossible to do any forward planning.
You're stuck in a hamster wheel.
A very well-paid hamster wheel, but a hamster wheel nonetheless. The high-earning freelancer often gets stuck. They are excellent at delivering the current work, but they never, ever have the time or the mental energy to invest in what's next. The strategic growth.
Because they're too busy doing the BD and the admin and the core delivery.
To ever spend 2 weeks developing a new service offering or automating their processes or seriously pursuing those larger, more stable retainer clients that would smooth out the cash flow.
So that strategic stagnation means they're constantly fighting for these small transactional projects.
Yes, because they don't have the infrastructure or the documented processes to handle an enterprise-level deal. Think about it. How can you possibly invest in growth if you are perpetually reacting to today's invoicing and admin tasks? If you're too busy just surviving to strategically plan, you are not really running a stable business.
You're running a high-rate job you can't quit.
That's it. And that lack of long-term vision is eventually fatal to the business.
And then there's the ultimate litmus test, the final symptom that proves the structural failure. Symptom 4, total vulnerability, the sick week metric.
Ah, yeah.
The source material highlights this brutal reality.
Yeah.
One sick week can wipe out an entire month of revenue.
This is the most crucial, most brutal detail because it just highlights the complete and total lack of redundancy in the system.
What do you mean by that?
If an employee in a larger consultancy gets the flu, their workload might shift around, other people pick up the slack, but the company's revenue stream, its cash flow, it's generally unaffected. The business keeps moving.
Sure.
But if the solo QS gets a severe flu, everything stops. The invoicing stops. The new proposals stop. The current projects slow down or halt. Revenue generation ceases to exist. The business is, quite literally, the single point of failure.
And then the bills don't stop.
The bills never stop. If the freelancer has high fixed costs, maybe a specialized software subscription, office space, that cost just keeps accruing while revenue instantly drops to zero. This model isn't just exhausting, it is fundamentally fragile.
So the test is simple.
The objective test is very simple. How long can your business survive if you physically cannot work? For the solo six-figure freelancer, the answer is usually less than a week, and that total reliance on their physical presence to generate cash flow is the very definition of fragility.
So when you connect all these symptoms back to that original desire for simplicity, it all starts to make a horrible kind of sense.
It does. The reason professionals stay solo is often to maintain control, but the true cost of that control is the absence of 6 critical structural components. These components are what separate a high-risk solo operation from a stable, resilient consultancy.
Okay, let's dedicate some time to these 6 elements because they feel like they represent the exact structural defenses the solo professional needs to build.
Precisely. These are the 6 missing elements that the source material identifies, and each one explains why that just me model maximizes risk.
All right, what's number 1?
First, no leverage. In the just me model, you only get paid for the hours that you personally put in. Your revenue is strictly mathematically capped by your time.
You can't clone yourself.
You can.
Okay.
You can't multiply your time or your effort through other people or through technology. This means your revenue growth is always linear and always exhausting. There is no possibility of passive income or profit generated by outsourced labor.
Okay. Number 2.
Second, no buffer. This is what you feel so acutely in symptom 2, the stress concentration. There's no financial padding, there's no time padding to absorb unexpected shocks.
Like a client delaying a project.
Or a sudden scope change or a personal health issue. Every single operational hiccup immediately becomes a cash flow crisis or a time crisis. There's nothing to absorb the impact.
And number 3.
Third is no redundancy. This relates directly to that sick week metric we just talked about. If one part of the system breaks, and that part is you, or your critical laptop or a major client relationship fails, the entire business fails with it.
There's no backup.
No backup system. No second person who knows where the files are. No financial reserve that's dedicated purely to operational continuity.
Okay, that's scary. Number 4.
Fourth, no support. And this goes way beyond just administrative help. You are the sole provider of your own emotional resilience, your own technical assistance, your own administrative support.
You're on an island.
A very busy island. When you have a complex problem, you have no trusted, unbiased partner to consult with. And that just increases the likelihood of errors, and it compounds the decision fatigue that's already inherent in that multi-role burden.
Okay, 5th missing element.
Fifth is no scalability. Since your growth is capped immediately by the number of hours in your week, you physically cannot take on more than, say, 40 to 60 hours of work, even if the demand is there.
You're forced to say no to money.
You have to turn down lucrative projects simply because you lack the structural capacity to deliver them. The solo QS is trapped beneath a revenue ceiling that they built themselves.
And finally, number 6.
And finally, 6, no sustained momentum. Because those BD and delivery roles are always in conflict, the freelancer constantly has to stop business development to deliver a project, and then they have to stop delivering to restart the sales pipeline from scratch.
It's stop, start, stop, start.
Constantly. They waste immense energy just starting the sales process over and over again, and that prevents the kind of momentum that comes from consistent, systemized outreach.
So to sum it up, the Just Me professional isn't just overworked. They are operating a business model that is fundamentally structurally unsound.
They are maximizing their temporary revenue while perpetually maximizing their risk. The analysis is crystal clear. This is a structure that is designed to break.
That analysis sounds, well, pretty bleak. But the source material is fundamentally prescriptive, right? There is a clear way out of this trap.
Absolutely. It's not a terminal diagnosis.
The natural reaction for a listener who's stuck in that just me trap is probably, okay, I guess I have to hire a big team. I have to deal with full-time payroll and employee management and all the things I was trying to avoid in the first place.
And that is the most common mistake. It's an overcorrection. The source material is very explicit about this. The turning point isn't hiring a big team or becoming an employer overnight.
So what is it?
It's building specific outsourced support systems. Systems designed to systematically eliminate those 8 non-core roles that we identified back in Section 1. The goal is to offload the administrative and a low-value complexity without committing to full-time payroll.
So the true source of confidence, then, it shifts completely. It isn't found in having a big headcount or in your personal endurance to work 80 hours a week.
No.
It comes from knowing you're not carrying every single business role alone.
Yeah.
You're building structural defenses against the inherent fragility of that solo structure.
Exactly. Let's systematically break down the list of solutions provided in the source material. We'll call them the 7 pillars of support. And these are not just, nice suggestions. They are the structural necessities for transforming a vulnerable solo professional into a stable, scalable consultancy.
And I'm guessing each pillar directly addresses one of those 6 missing elements we just discussed.
That's exactly right. Each one is a direct countermeasure.
Okay, let's hear them. Pillar 1.
Pillar 1, subcontractors you trust. This one directly addresses no leverage and no scalability.
How so?
When a big project comes in that's too much for you alone, you don't have to turn it down, and you don't have to work 80 hours a week to do it. You simply pass a portion of the technical QS work to a trusted subcontractor.
And instantly you have leverage.
Instantly. You get paid for work that you didn't personally execute. That's leverage. And you get scalability, because now you can meet large demand spikes without sacrificing quality or your personal time.
The power of a subcontractor is huge here. They solve your workload problem, but they remain responsible for their own payroll, their own taxes, their own benefits.
It's pure on-demand delivery capacity exactly when you need it most. And it allows the main QS consultant to act as a proper project lead, managing the scope and quality, rather than being the only person doing the calculations in a spreadsheet.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What's pillar 2?
Pillar 2, VA or admin support. This is the direct fix for that debilitating operational drag we talked about. The admin, finance, and invoicing roles 5, 6, and 7.
Getting someone else to do the chasing.
Exactly. Hiring a virtual assistant, even for just 5 hours a week, can drastically reduce the non-core work that keeps you up at night. They handle the low-value tasks like scheduling, digital filing, chasing those invoices, managing templates. This is the first, most immediate step in building a buffer against administrative chaos.
And it frees up dozens of hours a month.
Hours that can be dedicated back to high-value, billable work. It's a direct ROI.
I can see the hesitation here, though. For a 6-figure freelancer who really values control, delegating their admin, their invoicing, their schedule, that must feel like giving up the very control they started the business for.
It's a huge mental hurdle.
So how does the source material suggest managing that leap of faith?
It emphasizes that you have to view the VA relationship as a management system, not just task dumping. You don't just throw things over the wall. You start by dedicating time to document your processes.
Which I imagine leads us to the next pillar.
It does. But on the VA point, if you can document exactly how you want invoices chased or how you want your files organized, you retain control over the outcome while you're outsourcing the labor. That shift in perspective is absolutely critical.
Okay, so that brings us to pillar 3. Repeatable processes.
This is the secret weapon for moving beyond personalized one-off service and into scalable delivery. It directly addresses the no sustained momentum issue.
What does a repeatable process look like in this context?
It could be checklists, formalized steps for project initiation, documented review stages. These things create massive leverage in your execution. They standardize your quality, they reduce your errors, and they cut down on the mental load of having to remember every single detail for every single client.
So if you're relying on your memory and your intuition for every client interaction, you're just mentally exhausted and you're much more prone to making mistakes.
Of course.
But if you rely on a documented, repeatable blueprint, the task becomes faster and more reliable, and that allows you to move on to the next thing with real momentum.
Precisely. And that ties directly into pillar 4, templates that save hours. This works hand in hand with processes. Having robust templates for your proposals, for detailed scope definitions, for project briefs, and yes, even for standard email communications.
Oh, that's a big one.
A huge one. It standardizes tasks, and it significantly reduces your execution time and your quality control time. The time you save preparing a proposal for the 10th time, because you have a robust template, is time you can now spend on strategic planning.
Which directly addresses the strategic stagnation we identified as symptom 3.
Exactly. These two pillars, processes and templates, are the key to building time leverage.
Okay, what's pillar 5?
Pillar 5, clear pricing. This directly addresses the stress and the inefficiency of being the BD manager. When a solo professional lacks clear, documented pricing structures, they spend a ridiculous amount of time negotiating, justifying their value.
And often underpricing their work.
Often underpricing out of fear of losing the deal. Clear, non-negotiable pricing provides immediate support to your own BD function. It removes almost all the negotiation stress, and it ensures that every single job you take is actually profitable.
It also provides an essential defense against scope creep, right? Since the boundaries of what that price includes are clearly defined up front.
Yes, which is absolutely necessary to control the communications manager role.
And that leads us to
Pillar 6. Boundary setting with clients. This is not a soft skill. The source material is clear on this. It is a critical structural necessity for your business.
what kind of boundaries are we talking about?
Setting clear, documented communication rules. Stated response times in your contract. Clear expectations for project turnaround. These things protect your time, and they drastically reduce the stress and the communications load that contributes to burnout.
So if clients know they won't get a response after 6 p.m. or on weekends,
They eventually stop trying to call. This provides a necessary buffer between you, the professional, and the constant client demands. It defends your non-billable time, which you need for deep work and for, having a life.
okay, finally, pillar 7.
And finally, pillar 7, small specialist partnerships. This is the ultimate tool for building redundancy and for broadening your expertise without hiring full-time staff.
So not just subcontractors for doing the same work, but partners with different skills.
Exactly. If you're a QS consultant, maybe you partner with a trusted legal specialist for contract reviews, or a specific structural engineer for very complex estimates. This means you can offer a wider array of high-value services. You gain the breadth of a larger firm while remaining agile and small.
It builds confidence.
It builds confidence, and it provides a structural defense. If a project requires expertise outside your core skill, you have a trusted partner to bring in. And that turns that feeling of no support into a structure of real collaboration.
What's so fascinating here is that these 7 steps, they really do transform a vulnerable solo professional into what you could call a stable consultancy. They are the systematic application of defenses.
That's a great way to put it.
These steps provide the missing leverage, the buffer, and the redundancy that we identified as the core deficiencies of the solo structure. You're no longer trying to be 9 people in one body.
Instead, you're managing a network of outsourced functions while dedicating, say, 80% of your time back to that high-value 1/9 of your job, which is your core expertise. The professional is finally acting as the CEO of their own expertise, strategically managing outsourced resources, rather than remaining the overworked administrative employee of their own fragile business.
So what does this all mean for you, the 6-figure freelancer, who began with that dream of keeping it simple and just doing it all yourself? The initial goal, working for yourself and earning great revenue, that is absolutely achievable. But the method, the just me model, is fundamentally unstable. It's fragile.
It's built on a shaky foundation.
Yeah. The source material shows us that the true path to stability lies not in simply grinding harder or being technically superior to everyone else. It's in strategically outsourcing and automating those non-core roles. You have to delegate the administrative complexity and that operational drag to actually retain your professional simplicity and focus.
The movement from a risky, fragile solo operation to a stable consultancy is entirely about establishing those defenses. It's about clear boundaries, delegated administration, trusted partners, and scalable processes. This infrastructure is what allows you to move beyond simply chasing the next paycheck and to actually build equity and long-term peace of mind in a business that's resilient.
A business that can withstand a shock.
Exactly. We've seen that the one-person model, while it's so appealing for its perceived freedom, it risks becoming a business that completely overwhelms your life. Its demands consume your personal time and your mental energy with that constant operational drag.
And the alternative?
The stable, supported consultancy model is one that is specifically built to support your life. It offers genuine flexibility and real financial resilience.
So we should end with a final thought for the listener to take away.
I think the question you need to ask yourself today, the ultimate test of fragility versus stability, is this. If you had to take a full sick month, starting today, no work, no email, nothing, would your business stop completely? Would your revenue drop to zero? Or would your implemented systems, your VA, your subcontractors, your clear processes, would they keep the revenue flowing and the clients satisfied?
That is a tough question.
It's the only question that matters. If the answer is the former, that everything would stop, then the structural risk is just too high, and it's time to start building those 7 pillars of support.